The bright white angels taking you away. Like the breath you once tossed them to take. You've crumbled into tiny shapes today. To Galapagos and drop your remains in paradise, somewhere warmer than Connecticut, somewhere where the gas is half the price. Struggling to recall what your face looked like before you dove headfirst into Lighthouse Beach with the suit and tossed along. Before the bubbles filled your chest, strangling those lungs asleep by wrapping them in plankton blankets till the salt water turned sweet. I want to remember you as you were. No holes in cheeks from crustaceans piercing through them. I liked it when your brain was still in your skull and your skin wasn't cold or blue as the ocean. And drop your remains in blocks of ice somewhere colder than Connecticut, somewhere the gas is half the price. When you drifted onto shore, we thought we'd seen a ghost or some sort of bloated seal draped in a seaweed coat. But as the pelicans took chunks from your eye sockets, we prayed out loud in hopes that limbo existed, if only for today. I want to remember you as you were. floating along the seawall, not motionless, flung across the rocky shore. I want you back, breathing and selfish as ever.
Yeah!
Can everybody stand on the stage for this one? If you haven't noticed yet, I like changing spaces. I'm very ADD. Let's bring it up close, 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 close. All right, this one is called Some New Shit You Never Heard of. Most of y'all probably never heard of me anyhow, but yeah, hey, this is new shit. This song's called Teach a Rat to Fish. Teach a rat to fish. It's a funny idea, right? History's made them, manipulated them, forgotten. After being repeated, beaten into us endlessly. Until we start believing that there's no other option. Until we start believing imprisonment is free. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep loving. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep fighting. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep breathing. One day we won't. They say you teach a man to fish and he'll got you ridiculously and swift with the fuck you really got to his lips. Used to love you think. As the blood pools up in your mouth, penny teeth crimson, full in the mouth of the buzz of your tongue. Ever gonna taste freedom of a nice meal again? You're not gonna get a bang fail out, kid. On your own, ever seen a honey girl turn to stone? Ever seen a good man sell his soul to a fat best friend to the end? You were told, yeah. On your own, nothing can second you but the pain of growth. Even if it's step into your shoes and no, nobody can ever imitate a clone. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep fighting. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep loving. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep breathing. One day we won't. Haven't felt any fire in a while. If you love me, then please just engulf in your flames. Nostalgia, think it's Tarkovsky sitting on City Hall steps in the rain, buttoned up polo in the courtroom. Overpriced logo in a cheap suit. Surely, but he had a lot of words to say until he got in front of a federal judge that day. Someone wanted to rip every inch of skin off of those slithering snake faces. I've been holding back screams of the PTSD, thinking it's time to go back at me as if I'm still feeling your memories touching my temple. Been in therapy, checking the mental, but deep in the center of my chest is nothing except staring the green eyes of a devil. The morals are malleable, greed for power is palpable. Watching prosecutors play a twisted game for victory with the life of a human being, like Monopoly property of puzzles. There was no proper rebuttal, it's cover the money or shut the fuck up. Now your husband and father is stuck in a muzzle with hundreds of dogs in a hole, only waiting to get on the bone, while the wives working doubles in hopes that the bank will go on, put a lien on their home. Even after rereading the history, state by the sitting in a state of disbelief that they hits a man harder than seeing his family in tears while he's copping a plea. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep fighting. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep loving. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep breathing. But one day we won't. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep fighting. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep loving. Sometimes it's hard to convince ourselves to keep breathing. One day we won't.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I got one more. Thank you, everybody.
They made this song for you.
Oh my God.